23,500 ready to watch the second semifinal of the day between the 20th ranked Tar Heels of North Carolina and number 18 Florida State, the Seminoles. Take a look at the Coca-Cola Classic lineup. Hubert Davis, the fourth Tar Heel to average more than 20 points a game since 1978. For Florida State, Charlie Ward changed the complexion of the Seminoles' win over North Carolina State with his steals, passing, and ball handling last night. 6 steals and 8 assists. Florida State swept the regular season series. The first ever ACC game they played, they won at Chapel Hill 86-74, and then they drilled North Carolina in Tallahassee 110-96. Tempo, one of the big keys, Len.
Well, certainly it is, and Carolina's going to look to try to play a half-court basketball game to get their big people, particularly Eric Montross, involved on the offense.
Charlie Ward picks up where he left off last night with a swipe to Edwards. This is what they did to North Carolina State for 40 minutes, and what they've done to the rest of the league all year.
Yep, they are back.
Lynch forces it up from the lane. It goes, and he's fouled. The foul will be on Edwards. And you get the feeling Lynch will need the big day.
Well, I'll tell you, George Lynch is certainly going to have to get involved. All the offense they can get, but take a look at Charlie Ward on the steal. And as I mentioned before, the transition is lightning quick from defense to offense. They get guys out wide on the lane. They have a great ball handler in Ward, who usually leads them, and they're unstoppable.
Lynch gives North Carolina its first lead of the game, 3-2. Ward 8 assists, 6 steals last night. Look at that step. Flashes down the lane, lost control that time, however, and Montross comes up with a loose ball. And the big man will bring it up himself and gets a hand from the crowd for doing it. Lynch. Hubert Davis hasn't touched it yet. Phelps down low. Slapped away. And we've got a jump ball situation. Possession arrow gives it to Florida State.
Mike, in the first game, we remarked how Duke does a great job of slapping at the ball while players are trying to position themselves to shoot. Florida State does the same type of thing, and it just puts an added burden on the shooter. Not so much that someone's going to block it, but you can't even get it up in shooting position.
Florida State 20-8 this year. Cassell to the baseline with a jumper. Missed, knocked out of bounds. It's out to Florida State. I'm a little surprised they're only ranked 18th in the country, even with 8 losses, because they played the 5th toughest schedule in the nation.
And with a 10-3 record in the Atlantic Coast Conference, you got to believe that, but there aren't enough believers.
Baseline jumper by Edwards. Montross clears. Well, they're making some believers here in Charlotte. Lynch. Dobart may have gotten a piece of that one. Here comes Cassell on the run. Gives it up to Graham. Ward for 3. All these guys can hit the outside shot.
And it's the push that forces Carolina to retreat defensively and come up in the blocks, but they leave people wide open on the perimeter.
Rodel, Montross, Lynch finally gets it. He's a great offensive rebounder.
We talked about the size of Carolina. It's going to play a major role in this game. If they can get it up on their offensive glass, they're big enough and strong enough to get good position.
It would be the only weakness you could find in Florida State's game. They're a little smallish up front with 2 6'9" players, and then really 2 guards and a wingman. This is Cassell from last night as he goes on the drive and then comes up limping. We thought he had a bad ankle. It turned out it was cramps. And Len, you talked to them before the game about that situation. What did they say?
Well, he got plenty of fluids, got off his feet, but they expect him to have a recurrence of the cramps throughout the game. And the best they could do is continue to feed him fluids. Electrolytes.
I was going to say, what kind? May get some fluids of our own later. Lynch with a jumper, and George Lynch off to a hot start. The Tar Heels with a 7-5 lead. Dobart outside. Here's the 3, the jumper by Sam Cassell. He had 47 points in the 2 meetings with Carolina. Phelps being pressured by Cassell. Hubert Davis trying to get on track. This is Phelps, and he hits the three.
Well, Derek Phelps, if he can get involved in the offense, he'll cut down on some of that Florida State pressure because the guards like to peel back and help out. If he's going to be a threat there, they're going to be hesitant to do so.
On the season, he's hit only 28% from long range. Graham with a tough jump shot under pressure from Rodel, and the foul on Henrik Rodel. Dean Smith decided to start him today. Gives them excellent defense, doesn't make many mistakes, but he doesn't have that great quickness, and he'll come out now. And Brian Reese will check in for the first time. Sophomore out of the Bronx. Graham goes to the line, 80% free throw shooter. Now Kansas, as you see, pulling away from Oklahoma. Alabama leading Arkansas early. Graham with a nice touch. As a team, Florida State only shoots 65%, so Graham and Edwards really at 73 are the two guys you want to have the ball at the line. Everybody else a little suspect. Graham makes them both. We're tied at 10. 16:40 to go, first half. The winner plays #1 Duke. Not much of a reward, but they'll take it anyway. Hubert Davis, who has been on an incredible tear, misses that one. Edwards with a rebound. Cassell, good job by Phelps to stay in front of him and forced a bad shot. Lynch on the run to Hubert Davis ahead of the pack. Cassell trying to catch him and can't.
A little bit of Florida State's own medicine in transition. Carolina, who is capable of running. They've got three quick guys up front. I'm sorry, in the backcourt when they run particularly a 2 or 3 guard offense.
On 2 possessions, Phelps has really given Cassell a tough time, and this one's bounced out of bounds at the Florida State. Last touch by Carolina. Dean Smith looks on. His team has played well early. They're up 12-10. Carolina with a 2-point lead on Florida State. North Carolina shooting 43% from the floor. FSU 29. And Florida State, as we told you, already taken 7 3-point shots. They've made only 2. The last foul, a non-shooting foul, was the 6th against the Seminoles. North Carolina has yet to commit more than 1 personal foul in this half. And Florida State's not scored in almost 3.5 minutes.
A lot of it has to do with the zone being played by Carolina, and Florida State not going to the basket but settling for the jumper.
Lost the ball on the inbounds play. Tough pass there. Not a good one by Ward at the knees of Reed. And Phelps comes out with it. Phelps has been terrific so far for Dean Smith.
Well, he certainly is the key. He has to make sure he's not turning it over, give his team a chance.
Phelps offensive rebound. Davis will try it again. Montross kept it alive. Kicked out, and here is a 1-on-4 break. One of the few times Chuck Graham will look around and not see any other white shirts, so he waits for help.
Also one of the few times he won't look at the basket.
Yeah.
He's been instant offense for Florida State.
Graham and Sura working outside with Charlie Ward. They threw this one away. Hubert Davis with a free layup. 16-12 Carolina.
Florida State didn't even contest that layup. No one got back. And you got to believe in back-to-back situations in the Atlantic Coast Conference tournament. I know they've experienced it in the Metro, but you got to wonder if they're tired.
Maybe they're not used to people running on it. They wanted a 5-second call and nearly got it. The entire Carolina bench was on its feet.
And the guy who needs to have the ball for most of the offensive sets is Charlie Ward, and Derek Phelps. Once Ward gives up the ball, Phelps is overplaying him and denying him.
Here they go again. Montross gets it low, double team, foul on the way up, and Reed will pick up the personal, caught him on the arm.
What Carolina's done, they've changed defenses a couple of times down. They've gotten Florida State to begin to think about what they're doing. Defensively, though, just going back into Montross, who is a little more sophisticated down low than Andre Reed at this point.
7th team foul against the Seminoles, so we'll be in a bonus situation. Montross will go to the line. Salvadori comes in for the first time. And Montross hits the free throw. His free throw percentage down to 60%. It had been a little higher than that. Got another one, and it's 18-12.
Back in that zone is Carolina.
Edwards will take it outside for the three. Over the backboard and out of bounds.
Florida State right now is just a jump shooting team, not able to get the ball where they like it inside and maybe play above the rim.
Certainly not their strength, the half-court offense. They'd much rather run.
Oh, absolutely, and that's why Carolina goes back into that zone and forces them to play that half-court style.
Syracuse beats the Hall, as you see, and Florida State now held scoreless for 5.5 minutes. Montross gets it low again, leans in. Dobard may have gotten a piece of that and has the rebound. Ward pushes it up to Cassell, but Reese is waiting for him. Carolina really hustling on defense. Now they're back to the man.
See, the changing defenses kind of slow the process of reaction by Florida State.
Edwards with a miss.
And they're still shooting jump shots.
They're certainly not shy about it. Rodel feeds Salvadori. Out of bounds to Florida State. The Carolina bench is up. They wanted a foul. They wanted goaltending or anything else they could get out of that one.
Well, take a look at the play here. Rodel finds Salvadori. And the question is whether Dobard took it off rim. From this angle, it's hard to tell.
Now, North Carolina, 6 straight points. And that's been a 6-minute span where the Seminoles haven't been able to score. Cassell, nice quick step to the baseline, then a tough pass. Edwards hit by Salvadori, missed the shot, but he'll get the foul. They just can't find the bottom of the net.
But I tell you, as far as Douglas Edwards is concerned, I like that aspect of his game. Once he starts to play aggressively, he's very hard to stop.
Hubert Davis had a little breather. He'll come back in the ball game for Phelps. So that means Rodel usually moves to the point. Edwards, 73% free throw shooter. Had an excellent February. Stepped up his game, averaged more than 20 points a game. Averaging 17-4 on the season, and is the leading rebounder for this team as well as the leader in minutes played.
And he's got that quiet kind of game. You don't really notice him, but he's out there on the floor and constantly doing something, making something happen. His points don't come in bunches. They're just steady and consistent.
That free throw broke a 6-minute drought. 18-14. Tar Heels by 4, pressure by Ward.
It's going to be the half-court pressure. You mentioned it. Rodel playing the point. Florida State recognizes that and figures that he can be pressured.
He is not as good a ball handler, not nearly as quick as Phelps.
But to offset that inability to handle the ball as well, what happens is Carolina becomes a much better passing team, trying to throw over the pressure.
And a bigger team. Salvadori puts it up, can't hit it. Dobard with another rebound. Ward to Cassell. Nice job by Rodel to stay in there, but Edwards finishes.
Hey, I'm telling you, Sam Cassell, he threw about 6 fakes at Rodel. And while Rodel didn't go for any of them, it froze him. And then Cassell just walked right into the lane to create that opportunity.
18-16. Nice pass by Rodel to Salvadori.
And that's what you're going to do against the half-court pressure when you don't have that ball handler like Phelps, then you're going to throw over it.
20-16. Edwards looking underneath. Dobard, nice head fake on Salvadori. Cassell trying to take Rodel. Instead, Dobard will get the jumper and miss. Reese to Rodel. Davis dumps it to Salvadori, who just tossed up a prayer falling backwards, and it was answered.
in a fronting situation. You heard us say it yesterday and today. If you're going to front a guy down on the blocks, your teammates have to know so they can pressure the ball. You can't just let a passer stand there and pick you apart.
Edwards triple team, bounce pass to Cassell. Now Sura wide open at the baseline for three. Long rebound to Lynch. Nice pass to Hubert Davis. Boy, just excellent looks the entire first half by Carolina.
And that's designed to take away again the aggressiveness of Florida State on defense. They like to gamble, they turn their heads, and Carolina's picked them apart.
Biggest lead of the game, and Pat Kennedy says he wants a timeout to talk about it. He won't wait for the TV timeout. He's already down by 8. 24-16. North Carolina over Florida State. Will be back in a moment. (24-16) North Carolina. They have played non-stop defense against the Seminoles of Florida State, who are quicker but haven't been able to do it. And the only time people have beaten Dean Smith 3 times, 63, 4, 66, 73, 74, 85, and 88. 88 was Mike Krzyzewski. Well, Pat Kennedy has a chance to do it. Beat them home and away this year. And favored coming into this game here in Charlotte in the ACC semifinal. Sir brings it into Ward. 6.5 minutes to go first half. Florida State's already tried 9 3-point field goals. They've hit only 2. And as Lenny pointed out, they have been basically a jump shooting team, and they will call an illegal screen on Edwards. That is 3 on Doug Edwards. They had Sura behind him, and he put the elbow out. And that will get Reed back in the game, and Edwards will have to sit down with the 3 persons.
Man, you got to say ouch if you're Florida State, because that's your do-everything guy along the front line. And it was a simple screen play in the zone to catch the guy inside the lane who's got to cover the corner to slow him down, and Edwards moved while he set the screen.
Sullivan goes to the line, sophomore from New Jersey.
You know, if you're Douglas Edwards, you replay that in your head and say, you know, why did I make the move? You know, it's not the contact that you want in that particular play. It's just forcing the defender to take a much more difficult route to the shoulder.
Sullivan hits them both. It's 26-16, biggest lead of the game. 6:23 to go in the half. Florida State, except in the opening moments, has not been able to get the running game on track.
Carolina back to the man, and you know, it's confusion out there for Florida State.
Lynch, oh, nice follow by Sullivan, but he got it on the rim, overruled. Lynch had it just laid tantalizingly on the top of the rim, it wouldn't fall.
We take a look at it here, nice and soft, and it lays there. Whoa.
Oh, that's right. That looked like that baby'd come off by the time Sullivan got there.
See, without Douglas Edwards in the game right now, the matchups are more to Carolina's liking, and they can afford to go out here and play man-to-man.
Graham sailed into the lane, but missed the soft shot. Hubert Davis. Sullivan, they want him to shoot more. Missed that one. Sura. Graham missed it, and Reed with a big follow.
That's the play that Florida State's been waiting for to come out of Andre Reed. More aggressive to the board, run the floor, utilize that athletic skill that he has.
(26-18) as we approach 5 minutes. Hubert Davis for 3. In his last 6 games, Hubert Davis averaging nearly 29 points a game, and he is hitting nearly 70% of his 3-point shots. He has been sensational. 29-18. Cassell tries the long-range jumper. Montross to the breaking Hubert Davis. Dobart fouled him, and he made it. Holy cow! How does that go in?
Well, first of all, Florida State without a natural point guard in there, nobody rotating back to help out. How does it go in? You just put it up.
And that is 3 on Dobard. Oh.
I mean, he was hammered by Dobard, and obviously unintentional was the knockdown, but
Hubert Davis getting a breather now. So the starting big men for Florida State both have 3 personal fouls. The lead has grown to 13. And I don't know what the delay is here, but it's benefiting Hubert Davis, who went down hard. And they're checking on the foul situation. To see if that is indeed 3 on Dobard, as we had it. And they're going to bring Doug Edwards back in the ball game. Dangerous move by Pat Kennedy. Edwards working with 3, still 4:48 to go in the half.
And you can bet on Carolina stepping in Edwards' way every place he goes, looking for him to use his arms to push off anything to get a cheap foul, which is what they should be doing. Cut down on his aggressiveness.
Hubert Davis, the best free throw shooter in the conference, now has 14. He gets a great hand as he comes out for a rest. Rodel comes back in. The lead has grown to 32-18.
And as long as Florida State becomes strictly a jump shooting team without penetration, without movement, without the ball, the lead will continue to grow.
Pat Kennedy keeps both his big guys in there, and that's Graham. So he's really gambling with the 2 big men working with 3 personal fouls each, and Montross goes right at him.
Well, that's the gamble. Not only is Edwards going to pick up his 4th foul, but also, you know, whether or not Montross is going to come alive, which he hadn't done prior to that particular shot.
Montross nearly tied Dobard up. Graham may have the hot hand. He's buried 2 in a row. 34-22.
We told you he was instant offense. Great streak shooter with great leaping ability.
Reese passed up the wide open jumper.
Passed up the drive on a 3-foul Douglas Edwards too.
Travel on Reese. You're right. We've got a timeout. 3:47 to go. First half of play. ACC semifinals. Carolina's lead is 12. (34-22) North Carolina leading Florida State with 3:47 to go. First half of play. ACC semifinals. The winner will go on to meet the Duke Blue Devils, and Duke advanced by beating Georgia Tech 89-76 earlier today. It was really never that close. Duke had it in command all the way. Florida State going against Carolina, a team they've beaten twice this year. Right now they trail by 12, and Len, we've heard that silly old argument again today, how tough it is to beat a team 3 times. Now, if you're coaching a team, wouldn't you rather play somebody that you've beaten twice or somebody that's beaten you twice?
Well, you know, sometimes you want to be the hammer, sometimes you want to be the nail. You never want to be the nail. You know, you always want to get the guy that you have the psychological advantage on.
Graham goes baseline with a reverse. He scored the last 6 points for Florida State. They've cut the lead to 10. Biggest lead was 14. Rodel, nice pass, and a heavy fall as Lynch goes down.
I'll tell you, we talk about the quickness of Florida State and how they like to run, and they, in a full court game, they are fast. You know, they can blur you, but in a half court situation, precise cuts, good picking, you know, those are the things that do well for you, and Carolina's doing just that. They're getting the cutters in position. The passers are hitting them in a pinpoint fashion, so they're executing half court extremely well.
It's a 10th call against Florida State. North Carolina has committed only 2 fouls, and they have corrected the foul situation on Dobard. He only has 2. They gave the other foul to Reed, but Edwards still has 3.
I kind of think Pat Kennedy realized that as well.
That's Byron Wells in for the first time. Junior, 6'10", 235.
Puts Dobard back in the ball game, and then he takes Edwards out quickly.
Right. Well, they contested it as soon as they called out on the public address system what the official score had already had. Lynch with a miss. Rodel tried to keep it alive. Here comes Ward pushing it up. Well, they just left him alone for a second, so Ward decided to keep going. Lead is now 8. And the Seminole fans are on their feet. FSU has scored 6 in a row.
Much more active defensively, but you can't leave him alone.
They were in the zone, and Hubert Davis, Lynch with a follow, offensive foul, Lynch. Momentum shifting a little here with 3 minutes to go in the half.
Florida State dodged a bullet when, in their haste to cover the ball, they leave Hubert Davis wide open, but Sam Cassell bailed him out. Watch Cassell set up in position right here and get an award for taking that dive.
Cassell for 3. He has not had much of an opportunity to score today. It's just off on his shot. Last touch by Carolina. He's 1 out of 6 from 3-point range.
And he's getting the open shots too. That's the thing. Not many of them are difficult. I think Sam Cassell's the kind of guy that needs somebody on him before he hits one.
That one was blocked as Graham tried to put it up. Lynch came out and got it. Ward will try a 3.
That was way out. These guys, they're getting confused by these lines, I believe. They're looking down, seeing the pro line, and taking the shot.
There is a shooter's mentality on this entire team. They don't pass up shots. Davis from Reese. Of course, Carolina traditionally has passed up a lot of shots until they get the one they want. Maybe that wasn't it, but it went in.
And Hubert Davis, they talk about Sam Cassell, and we've talked about Cassell being an excellent defender, but that was pure one-on-one play. Advantage Davis.
Dobard, it won't go, but he's fouled.
Florida State has gone back to becoming a team that penetrates, dishes back, and really keeps you off balance. When they got behind, it was because they were forced to take jump shots, and you could predict they were going to shoot jumpers against that zone.
Foul called on Reese. Dobard will go to the line, and Montross is back in for Salvadori. 58% free throw shooter on the year, misses the first. It's only the 4th team foul against North Carolina, and we only have 1:54 left to go. Dobard really shoots better from the floor than he does from the free throw line. Had a big game against NC State, makes the second one. 36-27.
Talk about the team fouls, 10-4. A lot of that has to do again with Florida State having that period when they just didn't take it to the basket. They didn't turn Carolina over.
Right now they're working with a 1-3-1 zone, trying to trap.
You're not going to get calls if you don't take it to the hole.
And this will leave some openings for Hubert Davis. Lynch goes low to Montross. Wells knocked it away, and here come the Seminoles on the run when they're at their best, but it's a 2-on-4 break. And Graham is fouled. That's the second time Graham has come down on a fast break and seen nothing but blue shirts.
I'll tell you what, he's going to be not awarded the shot, the 2 free throws. It looked as though he was passing the ball.
Foul was on Phelps, and in that case, only the 15th foul, so they don't shoot.
You hear that whistle, you got to throw it up there.
Yes, sir. Cassell leans into one, draws the foul from Hubert Davis, and that will be a shooting foul. 1 on Hubert Davis.
I'll tell you, that's the element of Sam Cassell's game that I like so much. The fact that he's savvy enough to hear that whistle, draw the contact, and put the ball to the basket.
Coming up at halftime, we'll have a tournament update for you, take you all around the country with Chris, Jim, and Dick, and Alabama and Arkansas, of course. A big game going on, and then the Pac-10 showdown between Arizona and USC. And the occasional elbow thrown around the country. Cassell, the leading scorer for this ball club. And this ought to scare the rest of the ACC. In the lineup right now, freshman, junior, sophomore, junior, junior. You can't find a senior till you get down to Ron Miller, and he hasn't played in 3 games. approaching the 1-minute mark. Last touch by the Seminoles. I'm glad Sam stayed on that side of the press table. We're collecting cups right now.
Charlie Ward's hands in those passing lanes, you know, he's just so quick.
Bodies up on Sullivan, double team, and they knock it away. That's what they did so much. 4-on-1. Cassell gives it back, and Graham puts it down.
And that's what Florida State likes to do, and that's what makes them aggressive, their defense.
And they've been dominated the entire game, but now they're down by only 5. Phelps dribbles into a double team.
We said Derek Phelps is going to be key against this pressure. He's got to be able to handle the ball near flawlessly.
Davis nearly lost it. Every pass being contested. There's Reese cutting to the basket. Cassell knocked it out of bounds. Holy cow. What a play. Well, that wasn't good or anything.
Not right.
Man, he came out of nowhere to get a piece of that one. 24.6 seconds on the game clock, 18 on the shot clock. Lynch gets within his range, takes the jumper. Montross with a tip. Montross. Now they're talking it over, and they're going to call it on Ward, I believe, who is flat on his back. Yes, Ward. And you see Pat Kennedy's thought about that one.
Well, that's the second time Ward has gotten knocked out. At least knocked to the canvas. And Montross keep the ball up. Watch him bring it down here. He's trying to keep it up, but then he brings it down again.
Ward just got drilled.
It's a football mentality, although you don't expect that from a quarterback to stick your nose into that kind of stuff.
Well, he's going to come back in the second half with a helmet. Montross misses this one. It's 36-31, 17.6 seconds left. The lead is 6, and the Seminoles will get the last crack at it. Carolina showing pressure. Seminoles have gained a little momentum here at the end of the half. This would help them. Wells goes to the basket with a left hand and misses. Carolina with a desperation shot, and it will go out of bounds as the clock sounds. And Pat Kennedy said there should be time left on the clock, and I want the ball back under the basket. And it did go out of bounds with
time on the clock.
Half to a full second left on the clock, but he's not going to win this argument. Halftime, 37-31, North Carolina. And Lynn, I think as we take a look at the halftime statistics, the big thing that jumps out at you, the three-point field goals, Florida State hitting only 2 of 13. You made a great point yesterday as we entered the quarterfinals. The North Carolina's problem when they had that 5 out of 6 losing games was their defense. They just gave up too many points.
Well, they gave up in those 6 games 92.3 points in those last 6. And at this point, 37-31, this is a pace, a tempo that they like and they would thrive in. Florida State not accustomed to playing this type of basketball game.
And speaking of defense, last night Florida State starters hit 69% of their field goal attempts. Today in the first half they are hitting 33%. And Carolina has possession as we start the second half.
You talk about Florida State, they average 82.5 points per game, and this is not on that pace.
Reese leans into one, got the bounce. 39-31. The winner will play Duke for the ACC Tournament Championship tomorrow. Graham, who shot pretty well in the first half, misses this one. Reese with a rebound. And Graham will commit the personal, his second.
Well, Graham misses the shot and then goes after the rebound. You know, there was a bit of contact there.
Huge disparity in fouls called in the first half.
And watch the jumper go awry, and then Graham, in an effort to go after the rebound.
Whoa.
You got, I mean, there comes a point in time when you got to let guys play.
Wasn't the case there. Phelps low for Montross. Nice pass, nice catch.
And that's what it's all about for a 7-footer like Eric Montross. Never brought it down below his shoulders. no one can contest him if he does that.
The lead back to 10. Carolina led by as many as 14 in the first half. And North Carolina goes to a zone. They've switched all day. And Florida State has not been able to penetrate that zone very well.
Well, they haven't given it a chance. I mean, they've been moving the ball again laterally, but not really looking inside, outside type of game.
There they are from the outside again. Graham with the miss on the three-point shot. It was last touched by Carolina.
You know, Florida State's better when they shoot jump shots, when they have somebody penetrating and then dishing back as they draw the defense in.
But as quick as they are with those guards, a little surprising they haven't been able to do it. Cassell lost a handle on that one. Shot clock is down to 3 seconds. And they don't realize it. Everybody went to sleep,
including the bench.
Yep.
Pat Kennedy didn't get up. None of the teammates got up to warn them.
No, they just turned around when they heard the buzzer. Let's check in with Chris Fowler. Chris?
I want to show you a circus shot by Todd Day. Bam in Arkansas. Day has 30 points, 2 of them on the incredible spinning layup. Hogs down 1.
That young man has done that kind of stuff a few times before. Phelps for 3. Offensive rebound. Lynch lost it on the way up. And out of bounds was Charlie Ward.
You know, that's a glaring error. You don't like to lose possessions like that. And it's just amazing how in front of your own bench, your teammates and your coach don't warn you of it. No one was awake.
Everybody jumped when the buzzer went off.
It's too late.
Yeah. 41-31, 17:50 to go in the ball game. North Carolina beaten twice rather handily by Florida State this year, trying to return the favor in the tournament. Hubert Davis missed the runner. Edwards clears to Cassell. Carolina's done a great job getting back on defense.
And what it seems to be is after a basket, it allows Carolina to get back and set up in the zone. After a miss, they pick up man-to-man.
Cassell looks like he's rushing his shot. Graham with a follow. Boy, can he get up. 41-inch vertical jump. That's 3.5 feet, folks.
I can't even climb the stair that high any longer.
Knocked away by Dobart and Cassell with the easy layup. 41-35. It doesn't take him long to come back, does it?
No, it doesn't, particularly with that pressure and their quickness in transition.
Reese left alone, doesn't want the shot.
Carolina once again wisely sets up, gets their sets going in offense in a half-court sense.
Reese drops it off, and the easy left-handed layup by Phelps.
See, what the half-court game for Carolina does is force Florida State to sustain an honest type of defense, and when they step out and gamble, that's when Carolina capitalizes.
Graham fake to 3. Tough pass right in the face of Edwards. Here's Hubert Davis on the run. Oh, what a shot. And Davis goes down hard again. Hubert Davis has 18 points, and just as quickly as they cut it to 5, North Carolina puts it back at 10. Cassell.
Oh, man, quick move.
Graham. Oh, and then Edwards finishes.
Quick move by Graham to secure the offensive rebound.
Phelps back the other way. He's fouled, and if it's Edwards or Dobart, it's his 3rd. And it will be on Dobart. He and Edwards now both have 3. Rodel will check back in. He started today's game for his defense and ball handling. Sura is in for Florida State.
Yeah, Bobby Sura is going to have to fill that shooting guard position and put some baskets, at least from the perimeter. But Sam Cassell has gone ice cold.
He's the kind of player who can fire up a team, too. He makes some spectacular plays. Phelps at the line. He has been a good point guard for Florida State, or for North Carolina this year. 46-37. Pat Kennedy talking to Cassell. Pat in his 6th year, 116 and 64, made the NCAA 3 of the last 4 years. Phelps hits that one. 15:55 to go in the ball game. Carolina continues to hold on to a 10-point lead. Cassell at the line. He's hit 2 out of 8. Hits the free throw. Sura 1 out of 7. Graham 0 for 3, and Ward 1 for 3.
They've been forced to shoot those threes again, not in the rhythm that they're accustomed to, off the penetration and the dish flowing into it in transition. Carolina's done a great job of controlling the tempo.
Cassell has 11. Misses the second one. Sullivan with a rebound. 5-point lead for North Carolina. Hubert Davis. Offensive rebound, Lynch, and he's fouled.
Well, what hurt Florida State on that is you had 2 guards contesting the outlet pass. And once the pass was thrown, now you had a 4-on-2, 4-on-3 situation.
Foul on Reed, the 250-pound 7-footer, his second, and Lynch will go back to the line. 13 points, 10 rebounds for George Lynch, the junior from Roanoke, Virginia. Look at the productive Carolina bench. Lynch hits the second. Back to a 6-point lead. It has been North Carolina's tempo the entire game. They have dictated by their defense. Cassell kicks it back to Graham. Graham, tough pass, good play by Edwards just to save it. Wheels into the lane, little jump step. Was he fouled or traveled? He was fouled by Montross.
Slight collision between Edwards and Montross.
And Montross has picked up 4 fouls in the space of about 4 minutes.
It was a good decision by Edwards in taking it to the basket. You see the opening, you got to go to the hoop if you're Florida State, make something happen. You're not hitting from the outside, try something else.
I'm sure Pat Kennedy is sitting over there to say try anything else, because that hasn't worked at all. Edwards only 3 rebounds today, 7 points, and a look at Montross with his 4th personal. 7:38 left. Second free throw no good. Graham tried to keep it alive. Out of bounds out to Florida State, and the North Carolina fans come to their feet, as does Dean Smith. The Seminoles seem desperate to save it, but they'll get it out of bounds when we come back. The lead is 5. Seminole basketball, they're shooting only 37% from the floor. Carolina not tearing it up really either, 42%. Hubert Davis comes out on Ward as North Carolina's gone back to a man-to-man. Graham for 3. Big rebound to Reed, lost it, lost his balance and traveled.
Such a tough break. Reed going up, really doing a lot, considering the limited amount of time that he has. But again, you got to be able to keep your balance.
FSU has tried 23 3-point shots. They have made 4. On the season, they make about 35%. Lynch, he's so tough inside.
He's got that size advantage too.
59-52, 16 points and 10 rebounds for George Lynch. Seminole fans getting a little nervous right now. Edwards down the lane. Tough pass underneath. Put his teammate in real trouble right there. And Cassell reaches in along with Graham. One of them committed the foul.
Well, it's with good reason that the Seminole fans are uneasy, because Florida State's in jeopardy now of allowing Carolina to expand the lead. Then they're going to start working on the clock, looking into their big people, and either getting easy shots or getting to the free throw line.
Lynch has scored the last 9 points for North Carolina. They're up by 7 right now. And Phelps will go to the line.
You know, it just amazes me. I look at Derek Phelps play, and it just brings back memories of playing with his dad when we were in high school and postseason tournaments on those teams. And now he's got a son that's out here about to, you know, do some great things for Carolina.
Must make your knees feel a little creaky.
And sitting in this chair with this no leg room kind of affects that too.
Well, you haven't had any leg room since you were 15, have you? 6:42 to go in the game. 8-point lead. Cassell on the run, and it's blocked by Lynch. Dean Smith says run the offense. Reese.
So Lynch is posted up. He's a little bit stronger than Douglas Edwards, and certainly with the foul trouble Edwards is in, he's not going to contest it.
Phelps wide open, didn't want it. Hubert Davis will take it. 62-52. Every time Florida State has challenged the North Carolina lead, the Tar Heels have had an answer.
And the way they've done it is to go after the two big guys for Florida State, Edwards and Sam Cassell, and the guys of Hubert Davis and George Lynch. They've come through.
Edwards got rid of Lynch, missed the shot. Reed kicked it out of bounds. They say last touch by Carolina, though. Dobard comes back in along with Sura. Cassell will come out. Tough shooting day for Cassell.
Well, you take a look right here from the high angle on the baseline. Davis actually ran out of bounds to come back in. Actually, it would have been a nice look to see if he'd actually established position inbounds.
Foul away from the ball. And they call it on Graham. That's his third. You were talking about the fact that the two stars, Cassell and Edwards, have struggled. Cassell is 3 out of 14 from the floor. Edwards 2 out of 9. I'd say that falls in the parameters of struggling.
And considering the foul trouble that Edwards has and the hot hand that Hubert Davis has, each time Florida State threatens the Carolina lead, they go to one of those two guys.
Pat Kennedy wants to talk about his final strategy. 5:42 to go. We have 5 minutes and 42 seconds left to go from Charlotte, North Carolina. Sellout house, 23-5 and a couple on hand, and it's 62-52 North Carolina. As we go back to action, Reese will be at the free throw line, trying to extend that lead a little bit. Very unhappy Florida State bench with Cassell over there having just a terrible shooting day, as are most of his teammates. Reese hits the free throw. He'll get another. The lead now back to 11 points.
And if you're Carolina right now, you make this, you'll continue to do what you've done all game. On makes, you go back to the zone. On misses, you pick up man-to-man.
North Carolina has scored 7 straight points after the Seminoles cut the lead to 5.
So what do? They go to man-to-man on the make.
Why, that man's been winning 25 games a year for 31 years. Nice drive by Chuck Graham. 64-54. Lynch.
See, I got to wonder now, you don't want to create situations where Carolina can attack the basket and get a high percentage opportunity or get fouled. You still want to play solid man if you're Florida State.
Sura, they need one of these threes, and he got it. The freshman from Wilkes-Barre.
Gamble.
Hubert Davis gets the layup out of it. He missed it. Lynch rebound. Lynch rebound again, and he's fouled. That was Dobard, and Dobard is gone. Dean looking at Lynch, who's got a smile on his face after he missed those shots.
Well, Davis missed the first one.
Yeah.
He was anticipating some contact, and then that one looked like a foul the first time.
Just kept battling in there. Dobard will foul out with 7 points and 6 rebounds. And that will get Andre Reed, number 44, back in the ballgame. Salvadori comes in for Montrose for Dean Smith.
Right now, Salvadori leading shot blocker in the Atlantic Coast Conference. He's obviously in there for defensive purposes.
Lynch at the line with a 9-point lead. Now they're going over to tell Pat Kennedy what's going on. There was some exchange with Sura and Salvador.
Well, the ball was given to Lynch, and Salvador stepped into the lane. And one of the officials was about to call a violation and got waved off by the other.
Well, it is. Once the man has the ball, you cannot move.
I'm wondering why the wave off occurred. Take a look right here. Lynch has already got it. Now look at Salvador. He steps in.
Oh, yeah.
That's a violation.
That's what Pat Kennedy wants to know. Lynch badly misses the second one. It's a 10-point lead, still plenty of time, 4:37 to go. Graham, tough shot at the baseline and overruled.
Waves it off. And they call a blocking foul. Holy moly.
Whoa. They call a blocking foul on Reed. Take a look.
Well, there's Reed right there. He stepped behind him. I didn't think there was any contact made.
Yeah, I thought there was on a replay. I thought he gave him a good shove.
You gotta, it's a learning process. But when you're setting picks, you gotta make sure that you are already there and already set. You can't chase people down to set picks.
Not legally, at least. 4:34 to go. Rodel has come in.
Certainly not in front of the official.
No. 8.6 assists for Phelps. He's hit 3 out of 4 free throws and played some tough defense. 68-57, and it looks more and more like North Carolina will make another final in the ACC. Here's the foul trouble. Florida State has already lost Dobar. The only other player with more than 3 is Montross, but a ton of guys for Florida State have 3. Duke waiting in the wings for the winner of this game for the 1992 ACC championship. 69-57. Here comes Charlie Ward. Graham. Nice pass inside. Wells will get the layup. Byron Wells. And here comes the pressure. They really need some turnovers off this defense. Phelps kicks it back out to Lynch. North Carolina will work on the clock. They have a 10-point lead.
That's what I said before, that once they jump out to a double-digit lead, they're going to certainly use that clock, force Florida State to sustain the defense without gambling.
Lynch nearly lost it. And the pass from Rodel. Bounce pass across court. Not a good one and picked off. This is what Florida State thrives on. Ward, offensive foul. That was a good call. He used that free arm to push off. That's 3 on Charlie Ward. Len, there's a point in the game when you say, if you make this play, you're back in it, and they keep not making that play.
They keep giving away the opportunity. They're not getting set in their offensive set and forcing people to do a lot of things they're not accustomed to doing.
Carolina inbounding with 3:37 to go. They are now tipping off in the Midwestern Collegiate Conference. Butler against Evansville will join them at the conclusion of our game. And Lynch is hammered as he goes to the bucket.
Well, this had to be the fear of Pat Kennedy, that once Carolina went out to a larger lead, they're going to milk the clock. And as I mentioned, you take the ball to the basket to get the layup, or you get put on the free throw line.
They lead by 10. Still a lot of time to go with 3:16. Reed will go out and Wells will go back in, and now coaches are so good on free throws and dead ball situations and offensive and defensive substitutions. And Florida State looks like it's going to use its last timeout to talk about the final 3:16. They're down by 10, trying to come back against Carolina. And we'll be back in a moment. North Carolina leading Florida State 69-59 with only 3 minutes and 16 seconds to go here in the second semifinal of the Atlantic Coast Conference Tournament in Charlotte. FSU swept the regular season series, winning in Chapel Hill and in Tallahassee. But that man has done quite a coaching job and set up quite a strategy for today, hasn't he, Len?
He certainly has. He's allowed his team an opportunity to control the tempo by the changing defenses on the defensive end and by trying to get into a half-court game, setting and resetting on offense, forcing Florida State to sustain their defense, and when they gamble, to make them pay, and certainly pay Florida State has.
Well, we speculated that George Lynch would really have to have a big game tonight, and he has. 20 points, 12 rebounds. Hubert Davis continues to be Carolina's leading scorer. He has 22.
Well, we said that Hubert Davis was going to have to get some help from his teammates. And Lynch has been right there.
Lynch makes them both. The lead is 12. Cassell with a bullet pass. Good job by Edwards just to control it. Then he goes in. Lynch swatted it away, but Edwards puts it back in. 71-61. Rodel is hacked. That foul on Byron Wells.
Seeing the pressure that Florida State's applying, you got to give it a chance. And what Carolina's doing is getting the ball inbounds quickly, beating the first trap, and forcing the backline guys to have to stop the penetration of the ball. Otherwise, you're going to give up a layup.
Well, this is one of the guys you want to foul. Rodel shooting 59.1%. That's very uncharacteristic for a North Carolina player. Got a couple guys on this team that have really not shot the ball that well, and he missed them both. So they'll be looking for Henrik Rodel the next time he touches the ball to send him back to that line.
He stays in the game.
Exactly. Wells trying to go down the lane.
Wells did a nice job for the period of time he's in, but I think, you know, Pat Kenny would like to be more conservative.
Ward hits the three, 71-64. They try to make Phelps give it up. They come on a triple team. Got it to Rodel. He got rid of it in a hurry. Salvadori is hacked by Cassell. That will be 4 on Cassell. Salvadori, a much better free throw shooter. That's 75%. Well, the three-point shot really does make it an interesting last 3 or 4 minutes, even if you're up by 10 or 12.
Well, it certainly forces coaches to continue coaching, and they can't sit back and rest.
And Salvadori clanks the first one off the front of the rim. So Carolina has missed its last 3 and an opportunity for more breathing room. Make it 4, but tipped outside.
Very crucial. Wells was supposed to block Lynch out and just didn't get it done.
How many times have you seen Carolina do that in a similar situation? Lynch has had a sparkling game inside.
See, I call that more a breakdown of a guy who's on the inside block than a great play, only because if you put your body on the guy, he doesn't get to the ball. It's that simple.
Hubert Davis, he wants to keep the ball in his hands because he's the best free throw shooter in the conference. Sura commits the personal. He'll come out. And Rodel comes out of the ball game for North Carolina. Reese checks back in.
Hubert Davis for 2 shots.
Davis just above this season's average, but the last few games he's averaged nearly 29 points a game.
And the great thing about Hubert Davis is that in these clutch situations, he wants the ball.
Sure does.
As you mentioned, he kept it in his hands, had opportunity to give it up, but he wants it because he's had that confidence and the experience.
Makes them both. The lead back to 9 with 1:56 seconds to go. Hubert Davis has 23. Sullivan comes in. Salvadori goes out. Florida State needs at least 3 possessions to have a shot here. That's assuming North Carolina would miss all of its shots. Edwards scores and he's fouled. The last thing Dean Smith wanted was a foul on its defense to stop the clock.
And it's the same play that they ran the last time down. Edwards getting a pick across and doing a nice job on the baseline. And you see where Edwards stopped. He didn't come outside of the lane to receive. He stayed in the lane and held his position close to the hoop.
Foul was on Lynch, his second. 3-point play the hard way. 73-67. Good ball handling by Lynch to get it to Reese. He's double teamed. Lost it. Graham's going to wait for help. Back to the baseline to Edwards. Kicks it back to Cassell for 3. It's a 3-point game. Sullivan. They'll go for a double team on him. Anybody but Davis. Now, what do you do to get the ball away from Hubert Davis, Len?
You wait until the clock runs down. It's a 3-point game. You've got an opportunity to make a stop right here. You don't gamble. You don't foul. You force Hubert Davis to make a move.
Boy, how quickly it became a 3-point game.
Remember, we said Florida State likes to shoot off the offense and penetrate the dish back out rather than just stay out there. And that's what makes
it an 11-2 run. The shot clock is down to 11. They'll start the offense with Phelps. Phelps caught up. Shot clock at 4. He has to throw it off balance. Davis got the rebound. Now he's double teamed at the baseline. And it was taken away, but did they call the foul first? They did. They called it on Cassell. What a break for Carolina. Phelps got caught up in no man's land, had to throw it up there, and Davis got the rebound.
We'll have a good look at what happens over here as Cassell steps over.
Ooh. You don't know whether it was an offensive foul, reaching in, traveling. You could have taken your pick, I think, on that group. Cassell fouls out, 14 points, 5 rebounds. He only hit 4 of 15 shots from the floor. Got a nice hand from the Florida State fans. He thought he had to steal. Well, so many games are decided on the calls that could go either way.
Well, particularly a play like that where it was a hotly contested ball. Davis did have possession, but you know, it looked like a clean take only because Davis's arms didn't fly, and he certainly didn't appear to be pushed. But the officials closer than we are.
They certainly have better eyesight. Davis at the line with 24 points, 3 out of 3 from the line. This would make it a 2-possession game, but not yet.
Whoa.
So the ACC's best free throw shooter misses the first. He can still make it a 4-point lead with the second, and Hubert Davis knows how he feels. Got the second one, so Florida State will need 2 possessions.
Back into that zone now.
Edwards for 3. Long rebound to Lynch. Ahead to Davis. And Hubert Davis is just going to try to kill the clock, fouled by Sura. Well, not surprising, the big rebound came to Lynch, who's had a sparkling day. 14 rebounds, 21 points for George Lynch. And Pat Kennedy has seen it slip away from him all day. Every time his club got close, Carolina had an answer, and it looks like Florida State will fall to 20-9. North Carolina will go to 21-8. And more importantly for them, go on to meet Duke in the finals tomorrow. This will be the 738th career win for Dean Smith. Amazing. Almost got the ball again. 75-70, under 20 to go. Still a prayer. Ward for 3. Got it. They cannot call timeout. And they did, and that will be a technical. Pat Kennedy was waving. No, no, no. We're out of timeouts. but they called it anyway. And when you call a timeout you don't have, it's a technical. That's the second time they have fallen asleep, once on the shot clock and once on that situation.
Well, you got to wonder either if they had been warned in the huddle or if Ward had just forgotten about it.
Well, that's somebody's job to warn them in that huddle. Everybody's supposed to know when you're out of timeouts. So they had cut the lead to 2. So instead of the immediate foul and sending North Carolina back to the free throw line, where they have obviously missed some shots down the stretch, we'll now have a technical foul. Chance for 2 free throws and possession, and it's over.
And, you know, there may be some speculation as to whether that would be a natural reaction, but you know, you break up that thought process right away.
Sure.
By in the huddle and say we don't have a timeout, you know, immediately foul whatever after we score, but certainly you make it known we don't have a timeout, and the players who hear that are supposed to remember it, particularly your floor leader.
Pat Kennedy, who had more wins in his rookie ACC year than any other coach in history, trying to say what he wants to do in the last 12.4 seconds, but he may be out of options here. Davis will go to the line for 2. If he makes them both, you can warm up the bus. Evansville with a 6-point lead early. Now a 3-point lead. And North Carolina can start getting ready for Duke. North Carolina's last 11 points have come at the free throw line in this game, and they're up by 4. And now Pat Sullivan says Dean Smith wants a timeout. He wants to discuss what they're going to do in the last 12.4. 12.4 seconds to go. North Carolina by 4, and the ball. Phelps going for the hoop. Missed it, but he's fouled and ran 3 seconds off the clock.
Well, you want a shadow, and certainly you wanted everything to be in front of you. Charlie Waters stepped late on Derek Phelps. Nice job again by Carolina setting up a play to not only get the ball in bounds, but to get it to the basket.
Dean Smith just stood up after that play and put his palms up to the air like, we don't have to do that. All we have to do is dribble the ball. And everybody turned around and looked at him and shook their heads. Yes. That's got to be the frustrating thing about coaching. You say something on the sideline, 5 kids go out on the floor and do just the opposite of what you just told them.
But, you know, if you got a chance for a layup, you know, obviously he was going to get hammered, and maybe, you know, in a situation like that, he should have realized how close Ward was to him. But if you see the basket in a wide open lane, you know, that's instinct.
But if you don't listen to Dean, who are you going to listen to? 78-73. This one is over with 9.2 seconds left. Phelps with a miss. Reese with a rebound.
Well, it is over now, especially with Florida State falling asleep at the switch once again. You know, failure to block out 2 times. Earlier in the first half, the shot clock fiasco, and now the timeout situation. It's just a learning process for these guys. This is a tournament that they've never seen before, and it's you know, it's gonna do well for them next year, as you mentioned, with the young team that they have.
Well, they came in here very confident. Why not? They went through their first ACC season 11-5. They had swept Carolina and just played some outstanding basketball. But they will lose this one. They're down by 5, 78-73, 6.5 seconds left. And Reese at the free throw line. Carolina has broken more hearts in this tournament than anybody else.
And you can't say enough about the way they control their tempo of this basketball game.
It was super.
Florida State would have loved to have gotten it in the 90s and the 100s, and Carolina came back. They found their defense.
And now we'll see if they can do it again against #1 Duke, a team they beat earlier this year and came close to beating the second time they played as they split the regular season series.
They're going to have to do much of the same thing they did today.
3-pointer by Sura as the game comes to an end. North Carolina, after being beaten twice during the regular season, wins it 80-76 over Florida State. George Lynch and Hubert Davis with